Hey guys, so we've been talking a lot about weapons, but today I wanted to talk about what I think some of the best subclass setups are for Wrath of the Machine. The raid this time around has a lot more freedom in terms of what you can use and when, but me being me, I wanted to figure out what the best configuration of subclasses is. Before we begin, I'll be talking about super optimized team compositions. These are by no means required to do the raid at all, and generally speaking, you can use whatever you want and you'll be fine. 4 Warlocks and 2 Hunters, you're fine. But if you're struggling or you need any extra help that you can get, try out these subclass compositions. I'll mainly be mentioning the subclasses as the builds you use aren't really going to vary from the builds that you already know of, but I will post the exact builds as well as the subclasses on the screen. There are also timestamps in the description for each boss fight and each class in case you're looking for something specific. First off, in general, I think a 2-2-2 build of players is actually really solid, unlike King's Fall, where I think the optimal setup was 3 Hunters, 2 Titans, and 1 Warlock. 3 Titans, 2 Hunters, and 1 Warlock is also a very good composition for Wrath of the Machine. Obviously, Titans and Hunters are still awesome to have, but Warlocks are significantly more welcome this time around. For Vosik, you have a lot of freedom. I think the only requirement you need here is 1 Defender Titan for Weapons of Light and 1 Hunter for a Shadowshot, but obviously more than one of each is very welcome. So Warlock's Stormcaller or Voidwalker is gonna be the ideal here. Stormcaller is gonna be for you if you want a reliable way to get rid of the captain that spawns during each wave. But I think as people level up and get better and better gear, burning a super isn't going to be as important to do to get rid of the captain. To me, that would signify a transition to Voidwalker so that you can use Nova Bomb on the boss as a quick way to dump damage. You can use your super on the boss as a Stormcaller, but I don't really think it's going to be better than using heavy ammo or something like Outbreak Prime even. So for you Voidwalkers specifically, I like to use the Energy Drain build with nothing manacles. I've enjoyed this build very much ever since the Voidwalker buffs, and the link to the build is in the description if you're interested in learning more about it. Otherwise, the build is right on the screen if you just want to copy it verbatim. As a side note, you're probably not going to hear about any Sunsinger from me in this video, but I would like to see how well the Viking Funeral build does in the raid for the damage boost, so I can't rule it out yet completely. If you have trouble staying alive, then yeah, Sunsinger is going to be your jam, but otherwise I think Voidwalker is really solid, with Stormcaller being really good for captain killing if you struggle with that. Otherwise, I will be testing Viking Funeral in another video, so there will be more to come on that. Hunter's optimal setup is going to be 2 Nightstalkers for back-to-back tethers on Vosik, not to mention smoke grenades are awesome for the captains or literally anything else that spawns. If you already have 2 Nightstalkers, I would definitely go Gunslinger with Celestial Nighthawk to drop a big chunk of damage on the boss. Blade Dancer, you're not really going to be able to use your super on the boss at all, so you can probably skip out on Blade Dancer for this specific fight. Titans, at least 1 defender here is going to be really nice. Ward of Dawn lasts longer than the amount of time you get to deal damage to Vosik, so you are only going to need 1 and you'll be able to get it back before the next damage phase. But a thing to note is that Vosik can instantly destroy a Ward of Dawn with a shot from his cannon, so having multiple defenders popping multiple bubbles separated from themselves as a backup, not a terrible idea. Both Sunbreaker and Striker are good here, but I would probably go Striker. Hammer of Soul takes a super long time to use, and I don't think it does more damage than just using a heavy weapon. Melting Point on the boss is definitely possible, but it removes you from the damage phase for a little while. Melting Point might end up being actually worth it in terms of maximizing your team's damage kind of a thing, but if you didn't do it, it's definitely not going to kill you, especially with back-to-back shadow shots if you have them. Striker Titan, on the other hand, you can at least burn your smash on a captain to instantly kill it, and flashbang grenades are always good for defense. Moving to the siege engine, Death Zamboni, we get to change things up again a little bit. Requirements here, I'd say, are at least 1 Stormcaller, But other than that, you're open. Warlock's Stormcaller is so incredibly good here, it's insane. When your team is trying to break open the core, there are a ton of enemies rushing you. A roaming Stormtrance can keep literally everything off of your entire team so that they can attack the core and you can all get onto the siege engine. On the second part, once again, it is insanely good for clearing adds out of the way so that you can deliver the parts safely. It is perfect for this encounter, and I don't think there's any reason you should use anything else. Multiple Stormcallers are definitely more than welcome, and even if you wanted to run Voidwalker, it's not that bad, but I think I would prefer Stormcaller. Hunters, once again, Nightstalker is going to be your jam. If you don't have a Warlock for the opener, a well-placed Shadowshot serves the same purpose. It holds everything in place while you and your team can DPS. The ability to just completely shut down any enemies in a certain area, especially towards the end where there's a ton of captains spawning, is really strong. Shocker, I know. Blade Dancer might not actually be too bad here for ad killing, and I would really consider it over Gunslinger. The only time I would use Gunslinger is if my team was really struggling to kill Mexis to bring down the ramp, but even then Blade Dancer can get the job done too. Either way, Nightstalker, in my opinion, just too good to pass up, but you could roll with Blade Dancer as well if you really wanted to, or if you had a lot of Hunters. Titans, you can literally be anything here and you'll be helpful to your team no matter what. One Defender is not too bad for the first part if you need the damage blowing up the cannons and the core, but it's not really that needed. A Defender using Helm of Saint 14 is actually pretty nice for people who start to run into trouble both literally and figuratively. Sunbreaker is nice for roaming to clear adds, although it's not nearly as effective as Stormcaller. Striker Titan rocking Armamentarium for double flashbangs is really nice crowd control, and being able to smash captains instantly is a huge benefit. I personally go Striker Titan here to provide smashes on key targets, but you can do almost anything and still be helpful. Aksis Phase 1 doesn't involve any boss damage at all, so everyone can feel free to use an offensive subclass. Titans can opt for Sunbreaker or Striker, Warlocks can be Voidwalker or Stormcaller, and Hunters can be whatever you want. However, you probably don't want to switch subclasses for Aksis Phase 2 because then you'll probably lose your super and, that's not cool. But if that isn't going to bother you, then no big deal. For Aksis Phase 2, Warlocks, either Voidwalker or Stormcaller, once again works great. If you're confident that you'll hit your Nova Bombs on your captain, then go for Voidwalker. Stormcaller is just super reliable because you can't really miss your super with Stormtrance, and you can roam to another area to help kill another captain if need be. But with Voidwalker, you can drop a ton of damage on the boss instantly if you want to use your super on the boss for boss damage, and then just go right back to shooting, which is really handy. Titan's Defender here is going to be really, really nice. Being able to plant Weapons of Light for the damage phase is so helpful for your entire team. I've also been experimenting with a Sunbreaker with double melee for melting point on the boss, and with this Dark Drinker Discovery, double melting point on the boss is really awesome. If you have 3 or more Titans on your team, 2 of them should probably be Defenders for Weapons of Light, and the rest should be Sunbreakers running Dark Drinker for boss damage. You plant 1 bubble in the middle of the arena after he teleports a second time, then plant a bubble right on the boss at the 3rd teleport, and let your team go crazy with sword damage. The Sunbreaker rocks the sword and drops 2 melting point melees on the boss for up to 12 seconds of bonus damage for your entire team. That's a lot of damage. Now, if you're opting for a Black Spindle approach, which I'm speculating is going to be still very effective during this fight, then the melting point isn't really needed, and you can just continue to opt for Weapons of Light, and any extra Titans beyond the first 2 can do whatever they want, or they can just stay Defender for even more Weapons of Light as backups. Hunters, again, Nightstalker is great, but if you have a lot of Nightstalkers already, or you're really good at dunking the empowerment to get bonus supers a lot, then Celestial Nighthawk Gunslingers are awesome. Being able to just drop a mega shot on Aksis in an instant is great. And if you're able to dunk every teleport to get a bunch of those shots, that's just free damage. 5 Celestial Nighthawk Golden Gun shots can be up to 1,000,000 damage depending on the buffs and debuffs that you have. It's what enabled the world first one cycle of Aksis as well, a bunch of gunslingers. Granted, one cycling is probably not going to be the norm, two cycling will probably be the more common thing, but still, Celestial Nighthawk gunslingers, very, very potent if you have a lot of Nightstalkers. So guys, those are my suggestions for Wrath of the Machine subclasses per fight, per character. Compared to King's Fall, way more freedom to do whatever you want. If anything with the hard mode drastically changes any suggestions here, there will be a follow-up video to make those adjustments. And like I said, Sunsingers, I'm going to be doing research for you guys to see if Viking Funeral is worth it or not. Thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you next time.